send him 2, 3 years Dagestan and forget.
Fight wrap up for UFC Vegas 103 Kape versus Almabayev. Looking at the fight on paper, I thought Almabayev would have used his wrestling more through the get go, but Kape did a great job at dictating the pace of this fight. He got the better of each exchange and just really toyed around with Almabayev and showed him that he's just not on his level right now. Now, that was just an amazing performance by Manel Kape, and considering that Pantoja is defending the belt versus Kaikara France, maybe after that fight, win or lose for Pantoja, we can see a high stakes rematch between Pantoja and Manel Kape. By the way, guys, Pantoja is beating Kaikara France. I'm just saying it to say it, win or lose. But yeah, I think Kape has done a lot in this division and has earned himself a rematch with the current champion. I mean, Manel Kape faced Pantoja in his debut in the UFC, which is just crazy because now he's our champion. Now, this was Almabayev's first big fight in the UFC, and it didn't go so well. Since he never got the chance to fight on the front foot, his wrestling was completely neutralized. I mean, this guy was constantly on the back foot throughout this fight. And that's when I noticed that if this guy wants to become a legit contender in this division, he's going to have to work on his striking immediately. I think a nice trip to Thailand is due for Mr. Almabayev, definitely, because if he faces anyone like Kaya Sakura in this division, I really think Almabayev is going to get knocked out in the first 2 minutes of that fight. Just considering the knee that Pantoja took, and he's our champion, it's not looking good for Almabayev, really. So you're telling me judging in the UFC is based off damage, and Ribovics didn't win? This is what Haqparast looked like, by the way, after the fight. Yeah, not a good look. But when Sean O'Malley fought Petr Yan, O'Malley gets out wrestled the whole fight. But he landed a beautiful knee and he cut Petr Yan. And all of a sudden, he deserves the win. But if you look at that fight, it was 2-1 Yan. And on top of that, O'Malley gets the title shot. I'm just saying, my point, Ribovics landed more damage. And if we're comparing both of these fights, if we're judging off of damage, Ribovics wins. If we're judging off of points, again, I think it's 2-1 for Ribovics to Haqparast. So he wins in either judging criteria. So I don't understand how Ribovics didn't get the win in this fight. The judging is just awful in the UFC, and to be honest, these commissions have to get it reviewed or something. With Mario Pinto entering the division, this was just really needed for the heavyweight division, considering that they have only 30 fighters currently in the UFC. And you know what? For them to get a little bit more talent into the roster is always a good thing. And you know what? He entered the roster with a beautiful KO over Austin Lane. And I have to say, this was much needed. He got caught in the first round, which is a concern, but he explained that it was just first fight jitters. But we'll see in his second fight. But hopefully all goes well for Mario Pinto, and I look forward to seeing him more. Get this man on a pay-per-view. Hyder Emil's performance this card was amazing. Really, I didn't think he was gonna win. To be honest, I knew he was 10-0, but he was 34, and Gomes was obviously a younger guy, and he's been doing well in the UFC. He was 4-0 in the UFC, and he got handed his first loss in the UFC by Hyder Emil. I think that card was a big wake up call to the UFC that the Apex shouldn't even be considered to be used as a fight venue. And I don't know what the UFC is doing, putting Hyder Emil and Esteban Ribovics, who was a contender for Fight of the Year, and I can't remember if he did get Fight of the Year. How is this guy even on this card? And please, Apex, like, stop. There's no crowd for these fighters. These fighters can't even be worshipped by like anyone. They train so hard throughout their camps just to see no one watch their fight, and all their fans are just at home staring. And there was such a lack of promotion for this event. I just don't believe that Apex should be used anymore. And even if they use smaller venues, but at least give them a crowd. It's just really wrong.